From Zero to Prepper Community in 30 Days. I'm a liberal, living in a big city, and for the longest time, I thought finding a prepper group was impossible for someone like me. You know the stereotype. They're all supposed to be right-wing, rural, obsessed with bunkers, bullets, and political bashing. It felt like a world where I just wouldn't fit, even though I was just as worried about the future as anyone else. But in only 30 days, I went from feeling totally alone to leading a thriving community of like-minded people right here in the city. This is the step-by-step story of how I did it, and how you can too. Chapter 1: The Why. It all started with that low-grade, humming anxiety I think a lot of us feel these days. Every headline about a supply chain snag, every power outage that dragged on, every unprecedented weather report, it just kept adding another layer of worry. I knew I needed to get more prepared. Not for some Hollywood end-of-the-world movie, but for the real-world disruptions that are getting more and more common. I was worried about practical stuff, a shaky economy, political turmoil, and a climate that's clearly going through some things. I just wanted to build a little resilience for my family and my neighborhood. So I did what we all do. I went online. I started lurking in the big prepper forums and watching the popular YouTube channels, and I immediately felt like I'd walked into the wrong party. The whole culture felt alien. It was all about remote bug-out locations, huge gun collections, and a political narrative I just didn't share. One minute they're talking about defending a homestead from zombies, the next they're debating the best rifle for a post-apocalyptic firefight. I just kept thinking, this has nothing to do with my life. I live in a 1,200 square foot apartment. My biggest worries are a week-long power outage during a heat wave, the city water getting contaminated, or the grocery store shelves going empty. I need to know about practical urban survival. Where do you store water without a basement? How do you keep medical devices running with no power? How do you stay safe during civil unrest without turning your apartment into a fortress? A lot of the old-school prepper wisdom seemed to say that cities were just death traps, and the only answer was to get out. But this is my home, my job, my life, everything is here. Running to the hills where I don't know anyone and probably wouldn't be welcome isn't a plan, it's a fantasy. The message I kept getting was that people like me, city dwellers, folks with liberal values, didn't really belong in the prepper world. We were the unprepared masses they were prepping against. It was incredibly isolating. Here I was trying to be responsible, and the only community I could find didn't want me, and frankly, I wasn't sure I wanted them either. It felt like a dead end. Was I just going to be a lone wolf, quietly stacking cans in my closet and hoping for the best? That felt almost as dangerous as being unprepared. All the research and common sense tells you the lone wolf dies. True resilience is about community. It's about neighbors helping neighbors. Experts have found that your ability to get through a disaster is directly tied to how well you know the people living next to you. And yet the community I desperately needed felt impossible to find. Chapter 2: The Turning Point. I spent weeks stuck in that loop. I needed a team, but the only team on the field seemed to think I was on the wrong side. I remember scrolling through some forum one night, watching a thread spiral into political name-calling, and I just snapped the laptop shut. I was done. Done looking for a group, done trying to squeeze into a box that was never built for me. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't a lightning bolt, just a quiet, stubborn thought. If you can't find them, build them. Why was I trying so hard to get accepted by a subculture that didn't match my values? Why look for a pre-made group when I could build one from scratch based on principles I actually believed in? That was the turning point. I stopped seeing my liberal urban status as a weakness and started seeing it as the foundation for something new. I knew I couldn't be the only one. There are millions of people in my city. The odds of me being the only person feeling this way were basically zero. So here was my new game plan. A prepper group shouldn't be about politics or fear. It should be about a shared commitment to practical goals and helping each other out. The goal wasn't to find people who thought exactly like me. It was to find people who agreed that community resilience was critically important. That's a concept that goes way beyond politics. In fact, studies show that when people from different backgrounds work together on something practical, like a community garden, those political divides start to fade. I realized I didn't want a liberal prepper group. I wanted a practical prepper group that was, by design, inclusive and open to everyone who felt left out of the mainstream conversation. The focus would shift from me to we. Instead of hoarding resources for ourselves, we'd focus on sharing skills and building strong local networks. This is the heart of mutual aid. People coordinating to meet each other's needs, because we know the systems in place might not be there for us. It's a radical act of choosing to rely on each other, and it's been a core survival strategy for communities for generations. This mindset shift was everything. I wasn't looking for a tribe anymore. I was sending up a flare to build one. I gave myself a deadline, 30 days. 1 month to go from zero to a real, functioning group. Chapter 3. The How. Week 1. Nailing down the mission. Before I put the word out, I knew I had to be crystal clear on what this group was and what it wasn't. The biggest fear in joining any new group is the unknown. Who are these people? What are they really about? To head that off, I wrote a simple one-page document that I called our Manifesto. It wasn't about a bunch of rigid rules. It was about laying out a shared vision to attract the right people and gently filter out the wrong ones. The Manifesto had 4 core principles. 1. Community over individualism. Our number one asset is each other. The goal isn't to build a personal bunker, but a resilient neighborhood. We'd focus on mutual aid, sharing skills, and solving problems together. This immediately set us apart from the lone wolf attitude. 2. Skills over gear. Stuff is great, but skills are forever and can be shared. We'd focus on learning and teaching practical, urban-relevant skills, advanced first aid, water purification, off-grid communications, food preservation, and basic repairs. A generator is nice, but a group of people who know how to maintain and share power is infinitely better. 3. Practicality over paranoia. We'd prepare for the most likely disruptions in our area: power outages, supply chain issues, nasty weather, local unrest, not some far-fetched apocalypse. This kept our efforts grounded, realistic, and focused on building resilience for a bad Tuesday, not just for doomsday. 4. Inclusivity and discretion. The group would be explicitly non-political. This isn't a debate club, it's a get-stuff-done club. Our only uniting factor would be a shared commitment to being prepared and respecting each other. And just as important, we'd operate with discretion to protect everyone's privacy and security. Having this document was the most important first step. It made the whole idea real and gave me the confidence for the scary part: finding people. Week 2. Sending up the bat signal. Time to find my people. I had the manifesto, but how do you get it in front of the right eyeballs without attracting the wrong ones? I tried a few things at once. First, I went super local. I posted on Nextdoor and in my neighborhood's private Facebook group. I knew this could be dicey, so I worded it very carefully, as friendly and non-threatening as possible. Hi, neighbors. With all the talk about grid issues and supply chain problems lately, I've been thinking about how we can be a more resilient community. I'm looking to connect with a few folks interested in sharing practical skills like food preservation, water storage, and basic first aid. This isn't about fear, just about being good neighbors. If you're interested in a casual chat over coffee, send me a private message. The magic words were resilient community, sharing skills, and good neighbors. All positive, all collaborative. Second, I hit targeted online groups. I looked for subreddits and forums with a more modern, less political vibe. In one of them, I posted a more direct message. Looking to form a small practical prepper group in the My City Name area. Focuses on urban resilience, mutual aid, and skill sharing, emergency comms, water purification, first aid. This isn't a military, non-political group for serious people who want to build a real support network.
If this sounds like you, DM me for more info and a link to our group's principles. Mentioning the principles was key. It showed I had a plan and gave me a natural way to share the manifesto with anyone who replied. Finally, I went old school. I printed small flyers with a tear-off email address and put them up on bulletin boards at a community garden, a tool library, and a food co-op. The headline was simple: Interested in Community Resilience, followed by keywords like food security, water, and first aid. The response was slow, then steady. A few messages from next door, a couple of DMs from Reddit, one email from a flyer. After a week, I had about 10 interested people. I sent each one a warm reply with a link to the manifesto and asked if it clicked with them. 8 of them wrote back saying, "Yes, this is exactly what I've been looking for." Week 3, the vetting. This was the most critical week. Finding people is one thing, building trust is everything. To get past the initial, "Are these people weird?" fear, I set up the first meeting not as an interview, but as a casual get-together at a coffee shop. I invited the 8 people who liked the manifesto. 5 of them showed up. The vibe was deliberately relaxed, just a few strangers sharing a coffee and a common concern. I started by being vulnerable myself, sharing my frustrations with the mainstream prepper culture and why I wanted to build something different. That broke the ice. Then, I guided the chat with a few questions to get a feel for their mindset. First, what's the one thing that got you thinking seriously about all this? This helped me understand their motives. Were they driven by politics or by a practical desire for safety? Next, what's a practical skill you have that you'd be willing to teach, and what's one skill you're dying to learn? This immediately framed the group around contribution, not just taking. And just like that, I had a quick inventory. One person was a ham radio operator, another was an ER nurse, and a third was a master gardener. Finally, when you hear the term lone wolf prepper, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Every single one of them said something like, "That's a fantasy," or "That's just not realistic." They got it. Survival is a team sport. We didn't talk politics, we didn't compare gear. The whole conversation was about philosophy, skills, and community. By the end of the hour, we weren't strangers anymore. We were the founding members of something new. We had a shared vision, and more importantly, we were starting to trust each other. Week 4, the first project. Talk is cheap. A community isn't real until it does something. We needed a first project to make it stick. At the coffee shop, our ER nurse mentioned she could teach a Stop the Bleed class. It was perfect, a practical, life-saving skill that put our skills over gear principle into action right away. We scheduled it for the following weekend in a member's apartment building common room. That Saturday, all 5 of us gathered, a little nervous but excited. For 2 hours, the nurse taught us how to use tourniquets and pack wounds. We practiced on each other, laughing at how clumsy we were at first, but getting more confident with every try. That class was a game changer. It took us from a group that talked about being prepared to a group that was actively getting prepared. We walked out of there with a real, certified skill. We had a shared win. We immediately decided on our next project, a group bulk buy of water filters and a workshop on DIY water storage for apartments. The radio operator offered to run a session on programming GMRS radios. The momentum was real. The group was alive. In just under 30 days, we'd gone from an idea to a functioning, skill-building community. Chapter 4. The results and the future. So, what does this community look like now? From those 5 people in a coffee shop, we've grown to a network of 15 households. We've kept it small on purpose to prioritize trust over numbers. We've got teachers, an electrician, a data analyst, the ER nurse, and stay-at-home parents. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what everyone's politics are, because it just doesn't come up. It's never been relevant. What's relevant is that the electrician can teach us how to safely wire a backup battery. What's relevant is that the data analyst set up a secure, anonymous map of our collective skills and resources, so we know who to call for what. We have a monthly skill share. Last month was canning and food preservation. This month is a deep dive into emergency comms. We have a bulk buying program that saved us hundreds on everything from food to first aid supplies. We even started a community resilience library, a pool of expensive gear like a grain mill, a pressure canner, and a solar generator that members can borrow. But the most important result isn't the gear or even the skills. It's the end of that feeling of being alone. It's knowing that there's a network of capable, reliable people a few blocks away who have my back and I have theirs. That psychological security is the most valuable prep you can have. It's what so many of us are looking for, not just surviving, but figuring out how we hold on to our humanity and get through it together. Our future plans are all about widening that circle of resilience. We're working with a local garden to get a dedicated plot for an emergency food garden. We're all getting certified, Community Emergency Response Team, to better serve our whole neighborhood in a crisis. We're building a web of preparedness that makes everyone stronger, not just our little group. Nice Story proves that you don't have to fit the stereotype. You don't have to go it alone, and you don't have to join a group that feels wrong. You have the power to build the community you need right where you are. It takes guts to send up that first flare, but I promise other people are out there searching the sky for the same signal. So I want to hear from you. What are the biggest hurdles you've faced trying to find your community? What's worked for you? Share your story in the comments. Let's use this space to help each other build, not just prep. Let's start that network right here, right now. 30 days ago, I thought being a prepper in a big city was a lonely and impossible task. Today, I'm part of a strong, skilled, and supportive community that's ready for whatever comes next, together. We didn't like the old model, so we built a new one. We chose collaboration over isolation and skills over fear, and you can too. The most important prep you can ever make is turning to your neighbor and asking, how can we help each other? That's how we don't just survive. That's how we thrive.